Good morning, everybody. In the news, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. In the news this morning, good morning.
Spencer found us that clip, and it's now going to be our new intro. I'm Rob Cornett. This is Spencer Gilbert.
You can Google Ann Curry, good morning, for those glorious 5 seconds.
This is Mr. Dan Merrill. Good morning.
Good morning, the news.
Good morning for the news this morning. Good morning.
Good morning for the news this morning. Good morning.
And Mr. Andy Signor.
What's up, guys? What? Yeah, when they can't find a big guy with a beard, they're just like, that's the only reason why I was hired, was just as a body double for Andy when he's
We
not
literally
here.
throw a rock at the ScreenJunkies office and hit a big guy with a beard.
It's true. They get nice Peter from Epic Rap Battles to come in for me when I can't make it. So get ready for that.
Half the time, it's not Dan at all. That's what you don't know.
You'll never know.
We all have our Kroger brand equivalents ones at the office.
I actually don't. But the facts of the internet today have yielded a lot, Spencer. Let's talk about this. I know you were worried about Daniel Craig recently. And you were concerned about his health.
His mental health, yeah. That he was being forced to play James Bond under duress.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's official. Yeah, exactly. Well, he is.
Well, the kidnapping has been successful, and he's been well indoctrinated over the last several months. We know that there's been some back and forth. The New York Times reported that he would indeed be returning as 007, but he had, in a previous interview, said, quote, Billy, would you like to read that quote?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. He said, I'd rather break this glass and slash my wrists than return to the role of 007, which I guess he had said 2 days after Spectre was released. He was on a media tour.
Well, we have a clip of him talking about it on Colbert last night, where he actually confirmed that he would indeed be returning as Bond. So let's take a look.
Well, Daniel Craig, we could use some good news here. Daniel Craig, will you return as James Bond?
Yes. There you go.
Here's where he's going to address
he's going to explain
why he said what he said earlier.
Why he was salty previously.
So there was a time when you didn't want to be the next James Bond.
Look, there's no point in making excuses about it, but it was 2 days after I finished shooting the last movie.
Sure.
I went straight into an interview and someone said, would you do another one?
Oh, okay.
And I went, no. And instead of saying something, you know, with style and grace, I gave a really stupid answer.
So there we have it. It was 2 days after he shot. He was probably exhausted and not feeling excited to immediately return to this thing. What do you think, Dan? Are you happy to see him back?
Is he happy to see him back?
I
That's the
know.
question, because he didn't seem happy to be Inspector, and maybe that was just the glum script, because it was a very glum, weird script for that movie. Maybe that was just the tone of it, but I mean, it depends on which one you're gonna get. Are you gonna get Spectre Quantum of Solace Daniel Craig, or are you gonna get Skyfall Casino Royale Daniel Craig? Because I like that edge that he brings to it.
It seems like every other one is great.
That's true. So I guess
we're in a good position.
We're due a good one. Yeah, no, if he wants to do it, it's just that I think this will definitely be his last one, because he's been doing it for, what, 12 years? It'll be 13, 14 years by the time this movie comes out.
He did say it is going to be his last one.
Yeah.
He said basically that this is the last time he'll do it, this is the last hurrah, and that he wants to go out with a bang. So that's great. And he said he's very excited about it. But what that bang is or isn't is very unclear. That's what's actually interesting to me, is that he worked pretty closely with Sam Mendes in the development of Skyfall. And so right now we're sort of at a point of who's directing this, who's writing it. The distribution rights are still in play between Warner Brothers and Sony. And my guess is that Nolan had been in the conversation. If it goes to Sony, that will lock Nolan in, is my guess. Because they have such a close relationship. Weigh in, Dan. Counterpoint.
I'm dubious. I'm dubious of Chris Nolan doing a Daniel Craig James Bond movie, or really any James Bond movie.
He said he wants to.
Yeah, but does he?
Good point.
I mean,
Touche.
He's such a. He seems to be so locked into, like, I'm gonna do my thing and my style, and there's so many things that come with a James Bond movie stylistically. I don't know.
You know they'd give him the reins.
They would, but I don't know. It'd be curious for me if he signs on. Look, I'd be excited. obviously he's a great filmmaker, but and I think he could really do some stuff. But it's like I think that there would be a lot of negotiation between him and whichever studio, probably MGM or that's one of the reasons Daniel Craig got so burned out, because those rights were up in the air for so long and they couldn't make a James Bond movie. I would be very intrigued to see what those conversations were like. Like, can I make a Chris Nolan movie, or what James Bond aspects have to be in it? I don't know. Color me intrigued if he signs on, but I've always been a little dubious of the whole Nolan as Bond thing. As a Bond fan, I think it'd be really interesting, but I don't know.
Sam Mendes wasn't necessarily the most obvious pick, right? He had done a lot of sort of period pieces, and people wondered whether he could do action or not. He did a great action sequence in Skyfall, and so to me, it's like, wouldn't it be fun to get a little out of the box with the director of this next Bond movie? Like, get a little weird with it. Who would you like to see?
I don't think you go out of the box. I think for 25, you want to just give like not a by the numbers James Bond movie, but like just a solid send off. Like, let's not send Daniel Craig out on a weird note, like, because his movies have had an arc more so than any of the other Bonds. So let's just like wrap his up, push him out in the Viking funeral, launch the arrow, and then we can get weird and experiment again.
So who would you like to see? Who do you think the person to do that is? I mean, is it a Nolan?
Just some like stuffy British dude with good sensibilities. Yeah, Nolan, Kenneth Branagh, just a stuffy British guy.
Stuffy British man.
Yeah. This was actually when I was on Movie Fights. This was one of our questions: is who you would want to see do a Bond. And I can't remember if I said it or not, because we all had great picks, but we got to talking about Tarantino, just like, let's just throw it all out the window.
That's when you get really weird.
Let's just do the craziest, like, 60, let's go back to the 60s for real.
Yeah.
Just do the craziest version of Bond. Like, after Spectre, I was like, I'm kind of getting tired of Bond. Like, this movie was made earlier that summer, which was Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. It was made better. Like, James Bond just came off as like super dated, and like, this doesn't work very well for this time. Like, let's just go nuts. Let's let Tarantino go nuts.
I'm into that idea. I think that could be really fun. And yeah, tap back into the 60s of not necessarily set it there,
right?
But tap back into that era of Bond. Although we do have Kingsman now.
What I think they should do is tap into the fact that Daniel Craig is older and the whole and the grittiness of this franchise. I think they take it over the edge and they Logan it up. There's never been an R-rated James Bond movie. Logan has proved that you can take a genre character and do an R-rated movie. As a Bond fan, I have seen a lot of PG-13 Bond movies, and I'm very curious what would happen if you take the reins off of that and that's this James Bond. He's got an edge. He's brutal. He's not afraid of violence.
Except for the one bullet that should have gone to the supervillain. I'm sorry, but like, you have a license to kill for that exact reason, to kill that one person.
Yeah, we're not going to pick apart the logic of James Bond, but Bond with boobs and bullets and bras and blades. I just think
if you're going to do it with a James Bond movie, then do Craig's last Bond movie, like, take it there. And I think even creatively, as far as the director goes, that could open up some more intriguing possibilities too. Obviously, again, Tarantino. Would he do a James Bond movie? I don't know, but if he signed on, color me intrigued and really interested to see that movie. It's the same Nolan thing. It's like, will they let him make a Tarantino movie, or does he have to do the Bond? But I think if you go R-rated, then a lot of those questions about the Bond conventions go out the window, because now you're doing a James Bond movie that no one has ever done before. And I don't know. I would not be.
How much further can James Bond? Like, they're pretty pushing the edge of a PG-13, anyways.
They really
are.
How much further could you really go before it's just not James Bond anymore? Before it's just something completely different, Well,
they have been pretty violent. I mean, look, this is an agent who is designed to kill, right? Yeah. Like, so, among other things, but that's certainly not outside of his purview. Bond has been full of sex and violence since its inception, and may as well bring it into the modern age. But then you do cut off a big portion of the audience that way, but I think it'd be really cool if they did go the Logan route and make it more about the character.
I just think if you're going to take this risk, now's the time. It's Craig's last Bond. This is a brutal one. You're going to have to reboot the whole thing anyway after this movie. You're going to have to reintroduce the brand with a new James Bond, regardless of what this movie does. So,
well, that's what I was saying. Why shake it up? Why shake it up this one, where it's his last one? It's an anniversary.
Because you're not going to do it with the introduction of the next Bond.
next one.
No, you're not going to introduce the next Bond with.
You don't want to do 25, which is a celebration of all things James Bond, as like the one that like you're alienating a segment of your
like
audience.
Tim Roth in the 60s.
That's a logical argument.
Austin Powers, but R-rated would be cool just to hear him say Bond, James fucking Bond.
Yeah, exactly. And
and there goes our monetization.
There goes our monetization. Thank you.
No one's watching this far into the video.
No, they're probably not.
No, CBS took our monetization by using that Colbert clip.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, we just lost it a few minutes ago.
You're right. The 25th movie thing that's certainly a valid argument. But you know.
That's a little bit of a conundrum, right? Because I feel like you're right, Dan, that with Daniel Craig, that is the way to go with this Bond, is roll right into that sourness.
Yeah, even less consent in the relationship.
Yeah, even less consent in the just fully go there.
Running into everyone's shower, just unannounced.
All showers, yeah.
The fact that I just parroted, no, less consent. Like, let's just take away all the consent. Let's just immediately have sex with people and then make sure a bullet goes right in their brain.
Yeah, that's kind of a signature move.
You just don't even want to wait to complete before you put the bullet in their brain. You want to just make sure they're dead at the point of orgasm.
Wow. Whoa. Wow.
Well, this is definitely
now we're skirting over the line.
Anti-monetization. We now owe someone money.
We now owe money. Can I just say I'm glad that Daniel Craig booked Colbert instead of Fallon, because if he was on Fallon, they never would have gotten to this question. He would have just like ruffled his hair and thrown a water balloon in his face, and we would still be sitting here wondering if he was going to be the next James Bond. So thank God he got booked on Colbert, because...
Well, we want to thank Colbert, and I want to apologize to humanity at large for being a soulless animal. Hey, there's another...
That was a game of chicken that we all lost, I think.
Hey, there's another popular character that there's...
There's no transitioning from that.
No. Spencer?
Yeah,
set us up for the next story. So we've also been worried about another actor.
Yeah. Oh, I've been worried about this guy right here. Oh, well, I'll introduce him in a second. There's another popular character who just entered the studio who will be at the table momentarily. But we want to talk right now about Batfleck. And has Batfleck ended before he's even begun?
Well,
the saga continues.
The saga continues.
Another chapter.
I will say this, like, just before we even get into this story, we don't know. All of this has been speculation back and forth about Ben Affleck's participation as Batman moving forward. And I gotta say, I really feel for this guy. I really do.
Affleck?
Yes, because he is so clearly having a really hard time and
being Batman.
No, not Batman. I'm really being sincere. Like, he is so clearly in not a great space right now, and it's public. It could not be more public, and that has got to escalate those feelings like 2,000%. Everybody wants to weigh in on you as you're struggling in life.
Let's weigh in.
Let's weigh in on it. Yeah.
Having said that, let's weigh in. Just on the movie portion of it, nothing else, which is that, Ben Affleck said that he was going to do it. There was a rumor that he was not going to do, even as an actor, the Batman. He was originally slated to write and direct, and of course, Matt Reeves is now directing. He's also taken over the script. Ben Affleck came out there was a report the day before the Warner Brothers panel at Comic-Con saying he was out and not even going to act in the Batman movie. Then he came out the next day during the panel and said, yes, I am. It's all good. I'm going to do it. Some people felt that he didn't still look entirely happy. Who
body
could read?
The
body language experts of the world. Then his brother did an interview. Casey Affleck did an interview.
Casey Affleck.
Casey Affleck.
Plot thickens.
In a thick cloud of vape smoke, Casey Affleck enters the picture.
Solve it all for us on Wii Sports Radio, and here's what he said. I believe we have a clip to triply ensure that we will not be monetized.
How much of him talk about the Pats and Brady did we cut out of this?
I thought he was an okay Batman.
It's funny.
Of course, no, he was great. He was great. He's a hero, so he had something to channel and work with there. But he's not going to do that movie, I don't think.
Breaking news.
Say.
You've broken.
Is that breaking news? I was just kind of making that up.
I will take it. I heard it from Casey Affleck. I'm going to tweet that out, and I heard it here first. So that is sad news. I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover, but okay, fine. I thought he was.
So there's a couple of different ways to interpret that. Like, either he really was just guessing, or he said a thing that he knew,
No, he
and
knew.
then
I mean,
quickly
he said
realized.
He knew, and
He's
he's
like,
like,
uh-oh.
oh, what? Huh? No, I just made it up. Huh? What?
Well,
Because we've all had that moment, right? No, nothing. I don't know.
What I know
Or-
publicly that Ben Affleck's not going to be Batman.
Here's the thing:
Yeah, I don't know if I have.
every time that they've come out and said, something about no, Ben Affleck is Batman, there's another story about an hour later that almost like refutes it. Like, yeah, he said at the panel, like, yeah, I love being Batman. I'm gonna be Batman. Their next announcement was Flashpoint, which is the only story that you could conceivably do that completely changes your timeline and gives you an out to change the characters. Then it's like, no, guys, I promise I'm Batman. Then his brother comes out and says, I don't think he's gonna do that one. Like, anytime he may have swayed you that he's staying, something else comes up and it's like, no, this is not happening.
Like following the actual news.
Yeah, I like to think DC has the Flashpoint script like behind glass, and after every movie, they're like, "Should we break it? Should we pull it?"
In case of emergency.
But that's the thing.
Wonder Woman, like, okay, yeah, Ben Affleck's not Batman.
Well, they broke it. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're doing Flashpoint. So at this point, does that add more fuel to the fire, convincing us
Well,
that?
because they're not going to do Flashpoint and then the movie ends and they're like, everything's exactly the same. Wow. Like, there's going to, obviously you do Flashpoint because the whole point of that is that something changes.
Needed it.
You need, like there's a weird universe changing thing. And I mean, maybe the movie's about undoing the universe changing thing, but it is kind of that's their button that you press and you can go like, okay, that's your Kelvin timeline where you can just go in and send Eric Bana into the past and everything's different now and Captain Kirk's a different dude.
Henry Cavill has a mustache.
Exactly. Superman has a mustache.
Even with Flashpoint in
Wait,
the
just
comics.
to give a little, thank you.
Even with Flashpoint
Perfect.
in the comics, it's crazy because that's what started the New 52, which was DC's big relaunching point. But if you go back and look, not everything was changed.
Mm-hmm.
Superman radically changed because they needed to do something there. But Green Lantern, his stories didn't change.
Yeah.
Batman's stories didn't change. So they cherry picked what was changed. I think they're going to do the same thing here.
Just for anyone that doesn't know, why don't we just set up what Flashpoint is as a storyline? Because I feel like sometimes we just say words and then we're
Sure.
like, you get it.
Well, basically, it's kind of what they were doing on The Flash season 3. They did it to a lesser extent, but Barry goes back in time to change something. He comes back. Everything is different in the Flashpoint universe in the comics. Bruce Wayne was the one that got shot and murdered that night. His dad, Thomas Wayne, becomes Batman. His mother is driven crazy. She becomes the Joker. So, and Wonder Woman and Superman are like dictators. It's just a very different landscape. And of course, at the end, they reset everything. But there are little changes here and there so that they could renumber everything number 1. That's essentially what it was.
Yeah.
So, final analysis, Casey Affleck, let it slip.
I think he
I don't
might
know.
have
How much do you think Casey and Ben talk? Do you think they chat?
probably
They're from
often?
Boston. They're very close.
No, to each other, really? You think they still like check in like what once a
Definitely.
week?
No. I mean, I don't know them, so I cannot say that. Look who it is, Andy
But I
Signor.
had to comment on that. He totally effed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's totally not doing it. And because you just made a point of, well, they don't talk, but they talk enough, or he knows enough about the drama of Ben Affleck that he was clear, like talking with the guys in the sports talk,
Well,
and
that's
then
the
just
thing.
let it slip.
That's the thing. Like, I talk to my brother differently than I talk to like an agent of mine, where I'd be like, the fuck Batman thing. I don't want to do Batman to my brother. But then to
I gotta
an
hustle.
agent type of person, I'd be like, they'd come to me with like
I also
the
think
actual
that
numbers.
Casey
and be
Affleck
like,
is
okay.
disengaged enough with like nerd news that he maybe thought that this was like common
Not a big
knowledge.
deal. Exactly.
Yeah. He did seem like, I
just
think
saw
he
that
was
clip.
very
You can
casual
finish,
about
but I have to say
discussions that he had. Yeah, I think the thing that's definitely confirmed is like, that doubt is there and it still exists, and I think we kind of knew that, but it's another layer to this onion of just like, this isn't a fait accompli. This is not decided that he's definitely doing it or he's definitely not. I think
there's some room for. I will say this though. Everybody has a different relationship with their sibling, but for me personally, my brother is the closest person to me in my life. I talk to him almost every day, and I would tell him things that I would not tell anyone else. So the level of how close you are or are not with your sibling, I think depends. That's one thing. 2, would you have believed it more if it was Matt Damon who let that slip?
because I would just think Matt Damon was pranking. Right. Affleck. It's like, oh, I'm gonna mess up his day.
Do we think Casey Affleck wants to be Batman? No.
he's just
This is his move.
slyly.
He's been very underwater
betraying
situation from the
his
beginning.
brother.
Oh, he doesn't want to be Batman.
And then-
Nah.
Yeah,
In the
he's
last-
not Batman.
in the last year or so, like Casey Affleck, he's had his own troubles and, and issues, and Ben has had his own troubles and issues. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe more than usual they were calling each other as like a support system, and they are talking about it. That's clearly like that clip to me was like. Or maybe I am making it up. Like that last shot of him kind of smiling was like, uh-oh, like I'm going to be hearing about this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not doubting that Casey Affleck thinks it's true, but I'm just wondering if Casey Affleck has the most up-to-date information
I would think
his brother's casting choices.
True.
Who knows? But I would think he probably has more information than we do. But now we have his information, so I'm sure it's not. No matter what, the movie's going to happen. We hope that it's a good movie. We hope that Ben Affleck is well, and that's where we'll end that piece of it, because we do have to talk about the Hunger Games theme park.
What? Our transitions today are worse.
It doesn't matter. This video is demonetized anyway.
Our video's long been demonetized. Every segment ends on something impossible to talk about. Killing children.
I will say thank you for the in-show critique. Hashtag my transition suck.
I'm not saying your transition suck. I'm saying like the news today is impossible to transition from one thing to another.
I'm sitting here actively praying that this whole thing is blocked, like worldwide. I want none of this out there.
I mean, we can ignore it like everyone else, or we can just lampshade the fact that it's impossible to transition from these stories.
It is. But so the Lionsgate, Billy, set us up for that.
So basically, Lionsgate is making a deal with... There's no way I'm going to get this right. So Jeju Shinhwa World in South Korea, it's a theme park, kind of like a Disneyland or a Six Flags. But what they're doing is it's several little worlds like Adventureland, Tomorrowland, all that stuff, but they licensing out to different movie studios. So Lionsgate wants to bring their properties. Some of the ones that they mentioned were Hunger Games, Twilight, Now You See Me, and their upcoming Robin Hood orgy. If you think our show is weird and random, what an eclectic mix of things to try to make rides out of. Like,
we gotta go to Jeju Shinhwa.
What are we doing with our lives? There's a picture of one of the lands from Jeju Shinhwa.
Why is there a flying car?
I'm not sure if this is like Tintin or what this is supposed to be.
That is Divergent.
That is the Divergent.
That's the third Divergent movie.
This is how they're going to wrap it up as a theme park ride.
I have so many questions about what the Twilight experience is. Do you just walk in and people stalk
get hit on by 100-year-old dudes?
Like, do you just get slowly stalked and weirdly fall in love with your stalker? What happens in the Twilight experience?
I think you stare at things. You're not allowed to really speak much. You go to biology class. I would actually love, if it was Hunger Games based, like a place where you could experience every different dystopia. Like, it's like you try to survive the park. It's more of like a horror theme thing. Like you go from Hunger Games to like Handmaid's Tale to like all these other awful situations like Mad Max, and like you just try to survive the park.
Running Man.
But that would be a real up and down experience for you, because you'd do very well in the Handmaid's Tale.
Worse than others.
Dan?
Dan, how would you do in the Handmaid's Tale universe?
I was just thinking about Sub-Zero and fighting with Richard Dawson. And, I was stuck in Running Man world, if I'm being entirely honest.
I would go to Running Man world like today. I love the Running Man.
Running Man's great.
It's such a good. You guys, have you seen Running Man?
It's more fun than Hunger
good.
Games.
You think so? Like
it's more fun than Hunger Games.
Well, it's definitely more fun.
Yeah.
With Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
And it was super. It was actually very predictive.
Right, that opening crawl where it's like 2017, the world sucks.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
What would that be like?
Anyway, The Running Man's a really good movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you should really watch it. It is great. What is the worst possible movie to make a theme park out of? Because that's clearly the best.
Yeah.
Is it?
There's any number. I mean, there's any number of them. I don't want to get any weirder down the rabbit hole than we've already gone today. So I'm just trying to think of
roll into the
Human
wave.
Centipede.
Yeah, Human Centipede would be pretty awful.
Take a number for your place in line.
Requiem for the Dream would be a pretty terrifying.
It's like a walk there. Everyone's just trying to stab you with heroin.
Refrigerators.
First, it would be a party.
Yeah, that would not be fun. Oh God, I'm just imagining it, and it just gets worse. By
My
the
dinner
minute.
with Andre. Just have to
That
sit
was
with
my pick.
Wallace Shawn.
That was
That'd be
my
awesome
pick
to have
this
dinner with
morning.
Wallace Shawn for 4 hours.
I want to have dinner with Wallace Shawn for 4 hours, but imagine the ride in which you just sit down and it slowly moves and you have a conversation. I said that to Billy, and then suddenly I was like, actually, sounds pretty good. I wouldn't mind
I don't
that.
think this is the worst because it was a thing, but this is slightly tangential, but I always used to get really freaked out when they had the backdraft thing.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
It was really cool, but at the same time I was like, would they know if there's a real fire? Like I feel like I'm way too close to this. Like how did they know if that place was not actually burning down? Like I got such anxiety going on that backdraft thing.
So backdraft.
So backdraft.
Okja would be bad.
Very well.
The snacks alone would be. and then you look at what you're eating.
Yeah, you're just eating bacon as you pet a pig, and it's horrible.
I do that at the county fair.
That is
Just to
basically
teach
the
it a
county
lesson.
fair.
Yeah, I mean,
I have just described a county fair. Very well. It's been a good day from the facts of the internet. And you guys have done very well today. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Let us know what you think about any of this in the comments below. #mayhem. Dan, do you have a hashtag for today? We'll go with.
Can you hashtag that sound? That's my hashtag for today.
Thank you for joining us. We will be back tomorrow, whether we like it or not.
Why do I print this at all?
I don't know. I read the scripts, Billy. Come on. We love you, Billy. Let's end with we love you, Billy.
we
and then
love
we'll
you,
just-
Billy.
We love you, Billy. We love you. Be nice to each other.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.